prejudice. With me now, Democratic Congressman Khanna of California, the lead House sponsor of this China competitiveness bill. Congressman, good morning. Thanks for being back on.
Good morning, Hallie. Thanks for having me.
Sure. In super duper simple terms, what would this bill actually mean or do for the average American?
Well, it's transformative. It makes the biggest increase in science since the Apollo years in the 1960s. It makes sure that the money isn't just coming to Silicon Valley or New York, but we're going to create technology hubs across America, in the heartland and in the South. And that's going to mean millions of jobs over the next 10 years for Americans in the leading industries.
What about retaliation from China? You heard their statement. You saw their response this morning, I'm sure. How can you be certain there's not going to be some sort of snowball effect, right, with both sides trying to outdo the other?
Well, I'm not for a new Cold War with China, and I'm not for that kind of thinking. Well, all this is saying is we ought to compete and have the innovation here. We ought to double down on our research and our development. And I do want us to win the technology race, but I don't think investing in our industries and our innovation is anti-China. I think that's just prudent policy.
This is coming, as you know, as anti-Asian hate crimes have risen a lot during the pandemic. You've got Politico reporting that several Democrats, as well as outside groups, privately say party leaders have to be, in their words, more careful about how they promote the bill, arguing against any strong anti-China rhetoric that could potentially prove inflammatory. I wonder how you would respond to these concerns, Congressman.
Hallie, I completely agree with that. Look, I represent the only Asian majority district in the continental United States, and it's also the heart of Silicon Valley. And what I would say is we do want to have cultural exchange, scientific exchange with China. We shouldn't shun that kind of activity. But we want to make sure that our values are embedded in technology. I want us to lead in battery technology and AI and quantum computing. And I think you can have the view that America should lead, but still not have over-the-top rhetoric against China.
Really quickly, what are the chances this gets through the House?
Very, very high. I had a great conversation with Eddie Bernice Johnson, chair of the House Science Committee. She's doing a fantastic job. House science staff is doing a fantastic job. Leadership, we're going to pass it.
Let me ask you about a couple of other things making news this morning. First is that report that we just aired looking at those ProPublica documents. I am sure that you are aware of it, and specifically looking at how the wealthy in some instances are paying much less in taxes than like an average American would. Are you getting the sense from your conversations with colleagues that this could bring more lawmakers on board to try to change the tax system? And are there legitimate privacy concerns, as some of these billionaires brought up to ProPublica?
Hallie, this is outrageous. I mean, what's happening is people are making money on stocks. They don't pay off in tax their whole life on it. Then if their kids get the inheritance, that's a step up in basis and that money is never taxed. This is exactly the type of loopholes that President Biden's tax plan tries to fix. So I do think it's going to create impetus for tax fairness. Look, I don't think anyone should be leaking someone's tax returns. And if there's someone who did something illegal, obviously that should be accountable. But I'm very glad that we have journalists who publish this to expose the issue.
We also have some news just in from the White House this morning, at least as reported by the New York Times, saying that President Biden is revoking, I think you and I may have talked about this when it happened during the Trump administration, right, Congressman, that order to basically ban TikTok. So instead, the Times says that the Biden administration will review a number of, quote, foreign-controlled applications that could pose a security risk to Americans and their data. How big a deal is this?
I think it is prudent to review things. I mean, look, what we have to be concerned about is our data really going to China? And if there is American data that is at risk, then there should be restrictions on that. So I support the restrictions on Huawei. But we shouldn't restrict competition. I mean, if TikTok is promoting competition and making Facebook and Instagram better, frankly, I wish there were more competition in technology. And so I think the Biden administration will strike the proper balance on that.
Congressman Khanna, always great to have you on the show. Thank you very much for your time this morning.
Thanks for having me.
Appreciate it. Sure.